What's up, Career Growth Made Easy listeners? It's your host, Craig Ansell, and I have a simple question for you. Are you making progress? Yes, that's a personal challenge to you from me, as well as today's show title. Join me to find out if I'm making progress and if you are. I was an engineer, and in 2008, lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I've helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Welcome back, Career Growth Made Easy listeners. I'm your host, Craig Ansell. Today's show is titled, Are You Making Progress? The inspiration came from a recent event that I was at. If you are a longtime listener, you likely heard that I was at Podfest recently. And it was an incredible experience. It was just at the end of last month. And boy, it was amazing. The people I met, there were even some celebrities there. I've talked about that briefly. But really, what's going on? Am I making progress? And a self-check for you, are you making progress? I think we should routinely look back on ourselves and see, do we have some kind of measurement, some kind of metric to see how are we doing? Go back to 2022, any particular point in the year, and see where were you compared to where you are today. It might not hurt to have a self-check for our personal lives as well as our professional. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story to get you in the right mindset. So I've been able to attend Podfest. This is either my third or fourth time, and it's been an incredible experience meeting a bunch of like-minded individuals wanting to share their information with others, help others, explain how their history of their podcast started, what were their drivers, and kind of what made them be. And it was just incredible time. But with Podfest comes a potential agenda that you can set up. You can also get some training in, some good learning in. And for me, I have a full-time job, and this business is my side business. However, I want to do it to the utmost best that I can for you, my listeners, and any of my coaching clients or speaking clients. So I like to better myself. If you've known me for a long time personally, you probably think of me as an information sponge. I just love learning. I can't help it. That might sound blah to some of you, but I'll tell you what. That doesn't mean I want to go and get every degree there is and take every course out there. No, I have a specific focus that drives me. And with that drive is a passion. Excuse me, froggy. And with that drive is a passion. But the thing about it with the passion, you have to keep it active. You have to keep it in check, challenge it, like I said in the beginning. If you don't, you could be spinning your wheels in the mud. So, I was at Podfest at the end of January. But I also attended Podfest 2022. It was in around the late spring, early summertime last year. So for this particular show, I'm talking about Podfest in 2023. There were particular sessions that I attended for education, some for just interest and curiosity, and others I wanted to receive specialized focused training. I started to have a deja vu moment as I attended one session after another. I started recognizing some of the speakers from the prior year, which is great. Good for my memory, okay? I haven't lost that yet. But then I started recognizing the content that they were sharing. And I don't know if you've had that feeling before, but it's almost as if you could predict what they were going to say or predict what they were going to talk about. As I settled into my second and my third training session, I actually started to recall the slide decks that were used the prior year. And in fact, one particular host said, guys, ladies, if you've been with me for a couple years at Podfest, you know that about 80, maybe even 90% of my slide deck is the same. I'm not going to lie to you. You might recognize it. But the good thing is, I put in that extra 10 to 20% of fresh new content. The world's always revolving, and I want to see what's out there that's new and fresh that I can share with you. Hopefully that piques your interest, your curiosity, and keeps you fresh, live, and running with the times. So that was my trigger point to say, okay, it's not just me. I'm not crazy. Yes, I do remember some of these same speakers. I probably was in these same events the prior year. So then I said to myself, man, you've gone to these training sessions before, maybe in fact these same ones. Should you be pleased with yourself that you picked the same agenda from last year or very similar agenda? Should you be disappointed? Wow, Craig, why are you here again looking at the same or similar stuff? You took this training, you met these people last year. Well, I took a few moments to decide how to look at this positively. And rather than beat myself up, I said, hey, they mentioned maybe 80-90% of the content is the same or similar from the prior year, and they just updated it with what's going on in, the current technology, current social trends to show what people are interested in, what trends are going on in YouTube, what trends in podcasting, things of that nature, maybe SEO, search engine optimization, things of that nature. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and make a list of the top things that they recommend to do. Then I'm going to look back and see what I've implemented. Turns out, very thankfully, I did take those actions, and in many of the cases, their top recommendations I have been following. However, there were a few that I remember from the prior slide deck from spring, summer of 22 that they've replayed this year in January. And they had some new content. For the new content, no, I had to go ahead and implement that, so I'm working on that plan to keep things current and fresh. But there were a few things that I was hesitating on from the Spring Summer Podfest that I simply didn't implement. And part of me was kind of disappointed. It was like, Craig, you know better. Here you are in the same room again, being taught by the same people on the same content. Like I said, a deja vu moment. I am not perfect and I never will be. That's the first thing I'll tell you as my listener. I have flaws. So I had to kind of take a pause, a deep breath, and say, maybe this is a good time to do a reset. Find out, where am I? How much progress did I truly make? And even what's worse, or what else? What's holding me back? And that's the same question I want to ask you. We've got the show title, Are You Making Progress? Sit back, look, check your personal, check your professional status. See where you're at. You need to do some type of comparison. If it's not last month or last year, go back a couple years. Check and see. Find out what you've gained, what you've changed in your life, okay? If there is something that you really want to achieve, set out small steps, small milestones that you can achieve instead of one big jump, one big hurdle to overcome, right? Can't climb a mountain all at once. You have to do it in steps, even multiple days. So for me, what was holding me back? Well, some of the advice that I received in the 2022 Podfest was very dynamic and very different, very stark from what I was doing currently, at least at the time. And I just didn't want to make that change. It was a big hurdle for me to change. So hearing yet again in January of this year, it kind of reinforced this is the continuing trend, and it's something that is strongly recommended by experts. These people that specifically study this content and are well known and versed in it. So why wouldn't I want to take their advice? That's kind of a scratcher, right? Brain scratcher there. So I've vowed to implement those changes as well. In fact, I even went up to some of the hosts afterwards, and to my shock, because of the audience placement from last year, in a particular room setup, it was rather unique. One of the hosts, one of the speakers actually recognized me, said, "Thanks so much for coming back. We had a great talk last year." I don't know about you, but from my memory, it would be really hard to pick out somebody from an audience that I spoke to or spoke at 6 or 8 months ago, and in a particular situation where it was a unique room size. I don't know. But I was really thankful to be, mentioned and to have a brief discussion with them about the challenges I faced. And I thought, why not share that with you, my listener? I looked at the things that I had learned in 2022, specifically for podcasting, YouTube, search engine optimization, and what I had implemented. I did a pretty good job, but like I said, there were those few things holding me back, and I've committed this year to make those changes. My titles are going to be better for my podcasts as well as for my YouTube releases and my thumbnails. There are going to be more clarity on those things so that you can find me and search me even easier. What else? Thinking about the content for the shows. Got to make sure that the value continues, the value sustains and remains in the shows. If you're not finding value, there's so many choices out there that you don't have to pick me, Craig Ansell, or my show, Career Growth Made Easy. I'm very thankful and I humbly appreciate you for being on this show and listening, selecting this as one of the devices, one of the ways to fill your brain with new information, hopefully fun learning at the same time. You know, when I had been speaking at an event last year, it was for the Florida Virtual School Teacher System. I think there was well over 10,000 people there. It was absolutely amazing when all the Florida Virtual School teachers and staff came together. One of the comments I received in person after the show was that it was fun learning. Think about that for a minute. You're being able to, or in my case, I'm being able to speak to teachers and staff. All they do day in, day out is teach. And yet virtually too, so they don't have the interaction of the full classroom. And several people, in fact, came up to me and said, thank you for your energy, but also thank you for the fun learning experience. That's amazing. I think that's truly a compliment because I was able to connect with my audience and yet give them back something. Why do I bring that up? It's not for a pat on my own back. I hope that I am doing the same thing for you, my valuable listener. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if we come up with shows like this that help you think, kind of challenge you just a little, such as, are you making progress? That might get you to move to the next step in your career, personally, professionally. Now, I've used that phrase personally and professionally a couple times today. What's that about? Yes, we have to move forward if we want to make progress in our professional careers, our jobs, promotions, things of that nature, potentially higher pay scales. But we're all human beings, and at the core of us is communication. Each one of us has to know how to communicate and communicate well. Read the signs of body language, understand the word choice that we make when we communicate, as well as process and understand the word choice of others. That sounds so fundamental, but that is a lot of what I do on this show, and that is a lot of what I do when I coach people one-on-one or when I'm doing speaking engagements. It's really crystal clear of importance. Now I'm trying to find my words. It's of crystal clear importance that we choose our words carefully. We learn to pause when we don't know what to say so we can regroup our thoughts. Also, learn to pause after someone is speaking to us and we need to form our thoughts, our response. Sometimes it's just so, we're so concerned, maybe we even have a stressor or anxiety about us, that there's a silence when two people are together and it feels uncomfortable. It's almost like somebody has to talk, fill the space with filler words, the ums, the uhs, the ahs. But that's not the case. I think with human nature and human interaction, it's a lot better to pause, process the information you received, and then respond. And by the way, if you want to practice this at home or at your workplace, record yourself having a conversation, but yet with, everyone that's present with their permission. And go back and play a small clip of it back with a timer. And you'll notice that pause that you waited after someone spoke so that you could better form your thoughts and your response wasn't seconds or minutes like it felt. It was just a brief moment in time. When people pause during public speaking events, even when I do that, say speaking at my church or in other events, it seems for the speaker like a very long period of time. It does slightly feel uncomfortable. You're kind of waiting for everybody to stare back at you and say, what's next, Craig? Why is there this quiet silence, right? But in all reality, it's just a fraction of a second or maybe a second. It's not seconds, it's not minutes, although it can feel like that. So practice using pauses. That way, that'll help you with your communication, help you to progress when you're communicating with others. But then also, don't forget about today's show, the challenge, Are You Making Progress? Reference back a time in the last few months or back in 2022 or even earlier on and see, how are you doing personally and professionally? If there's something that you have that's a pet peeve, something that's bothering you that you wish you wouldn't do any longer, or that maybe you want help on, get coaching, get training. See if there's some courses online. See if there's some professional coaches available. Depending on where you go to school or where you work, you might be able to get assistance from those facilities. Talk to someone. Find out if there's peers, mentors, special training programs. I know for people that want to learn about public speaking, there's groups such as Toastmasters and other functions out there. I think some of them meet weekly, some bi-weekly, and some once a month. But this is where you could not only go to learn about engaging new topics in person and network and grow your connections, but also to see what tools, what processes other people are using to learn how to speak in public or in small groups for the first time. I hope today's show, Are You Making Progress, kind of got you thinking. I really appreciate you being a listener of my Career Growth Made Easy podcast, and thank you so much for listening to me, your host, Craig Ansell. It has been an honor closing yet another show with you, and I look forward to some really special events coming up and some special guests coming up in the near future. Trust me, you want to bookmark, you want to save, you want to subscribe to Career Growth Made Easy, because we have some incredible guests coming up, and you won't believe who I ran into or who's going to be on the show, possibly in March, maybe April. Stay tuned. God bless you. I'm Craig Ansell for the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. Don't forget to bookmark us, save us, or subscribe. And if you found this show interesting and valuable, please share it with friends, family members, coworkers. I truly appreciate you. We'll talk next week. Peace. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ansell on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.